Hey, we're live!
Hey,
Happy New Year! Yeah! Excellent. Woo.
Enthusiasm.
Another one. Let's keep it going.
It's 2022, the sequel.
Bring back the 2010s.
I mean, 2022 really is just 2020 as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yep.
It's 2020, the sequel. Again.
Ooh.
2020 Electric Boogaloo.
So,
Oh, God.
we get to talk about what we liked about last year. And let me tell you, it's a short list.
Yeah. 2021 was not a great year for video games.
Or
a lot of
or
really
anything,
great
really.
projects.
It just
that
wasn't
got
a great
pushed back.
year.
Not a lot of good came out of that year, unfortunately. But it's done, it's over, and I think I'm better. I think I'm actually, like, recovered.
You may actually do some streams.
I may actually go back to losing at Doom.
Yeah. Oh man, you're gonna have to relearn how to play Doom.
I mean, I had to relearn how to play Doom when I picked it up anyway. It turns out I'm a quick study. I pick shit up fast! But I do have to get back to it. And rah, Zelo! Thank you for being here. So nice to see you. Thanks for the support. And what are these buttons? I've got these buttons programmed, and they actually change when I touch them, but I don't see anything actually changing. And I think I know what they're supposed to do, but I don't see it actually. Oh, I know why. I don't see it. Oh, they do work! Haha, looking at the wrong thing. Turns out it's been a year since I used this scene, and I forgot how I programmed it.
It's been a while.
Forgot how it's all set up, but it's all set up now, so I can and save. And hey, so before we get too started, we've got the favorites all down the side. Maybe since Zelo was so nice to actually show up, and he's the only one in the chat saying anything at the moment, he can say, what was your favorite boss of the year? Off the top of your head, do you have one? Is that a thing? You can't say Sanitar.
Because that game didn't come out yet. It's still in beta.
Yep.
Otherwise, it would have made a lot of my choices a lot easier.
Yep.
Honestly.
Yep, no doubt. That's a solid game. Even as I don't play it and just get my booty beat whenever I try. I love it. It's a great game. And I hate it and love it. It's a love-hate.
That is the relationship that most have with Tarkov, fortunately or unfortunately.
I'm going to turn your voice up a bit there. That was really quiet on my bar. Say one more thing, just to make sure that we don't lose your answers and stuff. Whoa, that was some background.
One more thing to make sure we don't lose my answers and stuff.
Yeah, it's good enough.
I mean, I can up the gain.
Just
I
a
can
touch.
do that.
Just a touch.
I can do that.
Perfect.
How's this?
Perfect.
Do I look good?
That's perfect.
Yeah, we did it.
Perfect. Okay. And we can get nice volume of Pseudo's amazing mechanical keyboard as well.
Clickety clickety clack.
I had to turn down my noise gate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not ting tang, it's clicky clacky.
I got reds, but I want to build a keyboard. God damn it. It was so hard for me not to build myself a keyboard for Christmas this year. I was like,
Hey, Dragon Magpie.
I mean, you could have done it. It would have been fine.
I could have,
That's the thing you could do.
There's so much other stuff I need to put money into first, like my servers.
The
One of my
beard
servers
is
has been offline for like 5 months, and I'm like, I should fix that. And I'm like,
my beard is Miss Beard Haven. It's not.
But yeah, eventually I will build a keyboard, but maybe I'll build it along with somebody, or maybe my partner and I will build them together, so I don't feel, or it's been another thing. I feel bad spending so much just on a keyboard for myself, but I want something with hot swappable switches because that just sounds amazing. I would love to be able to change that out because I get bored. Want something new. I have so many keyboards because every couple of months I'm like, what if I want these switches? Which thankfully I have a lot of computers, so I just move them. I have like a DOS keyboard for my servers. It's like, it's overkill, but
I like DOS. DOS is good.
they are good. I quite enjoyed it. I think my problem with that one is like I just need to order a new keycap set for it. Was the only issue with it. Somehow managed to break my caps lock key. I don't know how.
That's not good.
The cap.
Must have, like the under part that connects to the actual switch, that plastic part. I guess I was ready to flame in some fucking game. Maybe it was League or something. I hit caps lock probably too hard and just, I don't know. I guess it just wore down over time. But it's really hard just to order.
Is cruise control to cool.
Yeah, it's pretty hard just to order like one keycap unless it's like an artisan keycap, and then
those are
and
then you don't want just one.
WASD will do custom orders of small batches. I got some custom StarCraft keycaps with all the Zerg build commands on them for one of my boards.
Right on.
They'll do it.
I need new A and S keys for my keyboard, as I showed you. They've slightly worn through. Oh, this one over here. There we go.
Yeah, that's your Logitech, yeah? Yeah.
You can see the keycaps are just kind of, you can see the color right through them as they shine.
Yeah, that's weird. I guess it's because they don't double cast.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's just the color on the top of the key has been worn off.
Yeah,
it's just like a black coating on the top of a clear
casts.
Yeah, it's a black like paint almost on the top of a clear key to allow the color to come through, because the keys under the actual software for setting the color of the keys talks to the games. And I found out when I was playing Endwalker 14, Final Fantasy 14, that it natively talks to that. So as I changed my key bindings, the colors of the keys on the keyboard were changing based on the key bindings in the game to say which keys were for what.
That's actually pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was super happy with it. I was like, oh, hey, look at that. That's amazing.
I'm just sad that my wireless charging pad died.
Yeah, I'm sad about that too. Mine didn't die. I'm sad that yours died. I love mine. Although I have been using the brick of a mouse lately because I've been playing an MMO and I need my 12 mouse buttons. You can't play MMOs without a dozen mouse buttons. I just can't.
Play New World.
You'd have to use more than one hand to play the video game? No.
No. I can do it all with one hand, but I can do it all with just the mouse.
Hey, Punk.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. So we're about to get into it. We've been chit chatting and shooting the shit a bit because we haven't done this in a long time, and we like doing that. But we do want to get to some games. So now that we've got Punk, we've got Dragon Magpie, we've got Zila, we've got some lurkers. We're going to be talking about our favorite. Now, note, it doesn't say best. It's favorite. There's a big.
Okay, you gotta pull that noise gate back up and get that pseudo. That's a lot of clicky clacks.
That's fucking
Sorry.
hail.
aggressive hammer fingers.
Yep, no worries. I mean, I do the same thing, but that's why I bought a quiet as possible keyboard, because Pookie was always like, "It's so loud."
These are
not
reds.
wrong.
these are reds. And I had browns too.
I've got Kale Box Blues, and I don't think you hear as much on my mic as we do on yours.
No,
That's true. I don't hear yours at all.
I put my noise gate all the way down because I was cutting myself out.
All right.
Mic check.
Sounds like a case of plastic clappers rolling up an escalator. That is true.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So if we're going to jump into it, who wants to go first? Who wants to talk about their favorite boss?
I do like to talk. So the favorite boss that I picked was not actually a boss that was intended to be a big highlight of the game.
Wasn't it?
But because, well, I mean, visually and in the sense of like it's a spectacle, absolutely. But the trailers featured a different boss. All of them.
To be fair, the one that you're giving is a little closer to the end, and they may not have wanted to give away ending as much as beginning, which is the boss they highlighted more.
It's true. It's
also
true.
Boobs.
And also boobs, yes. And the fact that the other boss that I initially had chosen was a much bigger story piece than this boss. But the boss that I chose is my favorite. And this is won over by writing, by visual style, by the aesthetic of the boss fight. is actually Carl Heisenberg from Resident Evil Village. It's a fantastic boss.
Hey, board. Welcome.
That character overall was interesting.
Yes.
Very intriguing.
Yeah. It was very weird. I liked it.
Yeah, he's, I mean, there's not like there's a ton of options this year. As we were saying, 2022, not...
2021 even.
Yeah. Yeah, happy 2022. I was reading the 2022 on the top. The 2021 was not the greatest for games. And a lot of that is obvious reasons, and some of the games we got in 2021 were meant for 2020, and some we didn't get in 2021 were meant for 2020. So it's been delayed. There's been issues. We get it, but because of the slim pickings, Rage and I ended up choosing the same damn person as our favorite boss because he was so cool to fight. They gave you a damn tank.
Yep. You got to drive a tank in an RE game. It was great.
And I can't complain about that.
I mean, you got to be a tank in the first couple ones. You had to take controls.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, but I should have made that joke when you were the tank. Like, hey, look, the finally tank control. Without tank controls.
We finally called back to RE1.
Except the tank in RE8 didn't have tank controls.
That's true.
You could sidestep and strafe with it.
Which is very silly, and I love that they included it.
Yep. Chris Redfield arms.
Oh, yes. Arms like dump trucks.
But luckily, we didn't get all the same answer for this. Oh, hey, no. That's not good. That's not good. That is good. I'm bored. Thank you so much for the sub. Welcome back to the table and the 15 months of support. It's much appreciated.
I'm getting some Back to the Future fading away. I can see the fireworks through me. Who went back in time? Who did it?
Well, next time, don't go back in time and sleep with your mother. Okay.
Futurama, but I want to be my old grandpa. I'll play the song.
So, Pseudo going in a different direction. Pseudo being different.
What I do. It's in the name. Yeah. Can I even pronounce this boss's name? Ophian? I think it was. I should remember this.
Yes.
But I'm the final boss from Returnal. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give too many spoilers because I think a lot of people should play that game because I do feel like it's kind of a... it didn't get as much recognition as it should have, and I'm not too sure why it's the case. It was kind of one of the only actual PS5 games for a while, and it was one of the first ones that really utilized the kind of adaptive triggers and the haptic feedback, which was really cool. But yeah, that last boss, it kind of accumulates everything that, just the way that for people who don't know the game, you kind of crash on an alien planet and you get stuck in this kind of time loop. And every time you die, it resets, and you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And as you go forward, you're exploring this different kind of biomes of this alien planet, and you're fighting, it's the same thing when you fight a boss, and you kind of go to the next area, and you fight a boss, get to the next area, and it kind of wraps up most of those mechanics nicely into the last one. It also kind of ties up this kind of story of what's going on, as well as just the fight itself is challenging enough. Or if you kind of have to plan and build for it. Like the first time you get there, you're just going to get wrecked, and then you kind of have to keep trying and adjusting. And it can be a bit frustrating with games like this because you have to get back there. But thankfully, with the mechanics of Returnal, you unlock some of the items and weapons you unlock, you keep, so that you don't actually have to do, because that's kind of been a problem with me with some roguelikes where you have to do the whole gauntlet over again, and after a while, it kind of just becomes a slog when you want to just kind of figure out the last bit of stuff, and by the time you get to like the last boss, you're going to feel so burnt out that it's half the challenge is just you've just been marathoning things for so long. But thankfully you can kind of bypass and just focus on how the hell you're going to beat them and kind of design your build around it. But I find it accumulative. I think the style of it and design of it's really cool. I can't really say too much without completely spoiling it, but I quite enjoyed it. That in 2021.
You can also call out the change of mechanics that they did for that boss, and they did it in such a way that doesn't completely invalidate your other experience in the game.
Yeah, it's more of like it's not complete out there where it's like, it doesn't feel like it's cheesy, because sometimes the games will do that where like you spent the whole time getting conditioned and trained, and they're like, well, we want a challenge, so we're going to throw something new at you because, you know, that's a challenge, when really it's just kind of jarring and a bit cheap. Whereas if it's still within the realm of what you've been playing and the controls and mechanics that you have, it can still feel new and challenging, but not like you're playing a different game all of a sudden kind of thing. So that was done well. So it's not like you're just fighting another, because it'll happen sometimes too, where you're just fighting like another, it's basically like, oh, it's that boss I fought earlier but reskinned, or it's just all the bosses I fought before after another, just skinned as one thing, because that happens in a lot of games too. Or in some games, that's actually, you just fight the previous bosses. It's like House of the Dead would always do that, where you get to the end and it's like you get to fight all the bosses in a gauntlet run to the end, and then fight the final boss, which has all the same mechanics again.
Yeah, that's a really old game design trope.
Yeah.
Let's just quickly call out the reason that game design trope even exists is because of memory limitations, and they already had those assets, and they wanted to make the end harder, and they didn't have room to add more assets, so let's just reuse them.
It worked kind of okay for House of the Dead, because I mean that mechanic is just kind of shoot the things, and they died quick enough. But yeah, it's still weird when other games do it. It just feels kind of cheap and cheesy. But anyways, it's a really well designed boss. The aesthetics are really beautiful in that game, especially for like it being a bullet hell. When I first picked it up, I was kind of like, oh, what the hell? Like, because bullet hells kind of have a weird feeling to them, especially if the bullets aren't moving super fast. I like them, but there's always a kind of an immersion break that happens for me. But so much stuff kind of ends up going on the screen, but it's designed in a way where, you know, it's possible. There's patterns you can find. You have an iframe dash, which I think really helps, and I think that's probably why I had issues with bullet hells in the past, is because you make one wrong turn and you're like, I know I'm not going to make it now, and you kind of sit there like, damn it. Whereas if you have that dash, you know, it's kind of nice to try and time things like that, and, you know, get around as you need or dash through. And it's also not a one-hit kill, because a lot of bullet hells end up being like a one-hit kill, which is kind of annoying. So you get a little bit of punishment absorbent, but they do punish you for getting hit in regards to how much damage you're doing and the EXP you're gaining. But overall, kind of went on a huge tangent, but that boss I found was neat, and overall I just didn't play a lot of games with bosses this year.
Yeah,
a lot of the games I play
are... bosses came out this year, period, right? So
yeah, a lot of the in general, like a lot of the games I play don't really have bosses. Most of mine I play are
open-ended.
Either open-ended narrative or just sandbox, so I kind of have to make them myself.
Indeed.
Which is all well and good, but not terribly helpful for the category.
Yeah, no. But that's why we like to get all of our opinions, and that's why we have 3 different people on the show. We all play pretty different games. I mean, we'll coalesce into good games and play them together, but in general, if we just grab a game and play it, we're playing pretty different games. We've got pretty different taste. Alrighty. Now, the first time we've ever had a category from a viewer. Pretty happy about that. I'm pretty happy about that. This one was from Howling God, and I'm kind of stoked. So we're talking about our favorite villain for the year, and I think this one has the most interesting answer of all of them. And we ended with Pseudo last time, and I think Pseudo has the most interesting answer, so we're going to start with me. That's right. And my personal favorite villain for the year, I'm sure a lot of people could probably guess, slim pickings on the villains, Lady Dimitrescu. I can't even say it.
Dimitrescu.
Dimitrescu, thank you. Yeah. It's not a hard choice. By far the most iconic, the most memorable, the most marketed, and one of the most interesting when you were fighting. Yes. Yes, the most booba. The BB boss. So, Pseudo, let's break it up a little bit, and let's get an interesting answer, not an obvious one.
Yeah, it was kind of hard for me because I don't play a lot of games with a lot of bosses, and some of the games like I do play will have villains, but most of the time it's, like I said, a lot of games I play are kind of open-ended or sandbox. You kind of have to make the villains yourself. Going through it, but just kind of as an answer, because really want to give this game kind of a shout out, is the artillery from Hell Let Loose. Because if anyone's played that game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That game is, it'll end. Like I said, I was telling the guys earlier, I have a clip where I was trying to play and I loaded in, and the way that you spawn in that game is that your squad leaders or your command will put down garrisons that you could spawn on, and the way that artillery works in this game is that there's the artillery kind of in each team's headquarters, and it's actually a player that has to go on them and shoot the artillery, and the commander will kind of tell them where they want them to be firing, and you only have so much kind of ammo, so you kind of have to be careful. You can't just start shooting it willy-nilly. You want to really make sure it counts, and there'll be kind of recon teams of like, they're 2 people, kind of sniper and spotter, that will go deep into enemy back lines and try and find where the team is spawning, and then to be like, this is the grid coordinate, and the next thing you know, your spawn's just getting blasted by artillery. So yeah, fuck that. fuck the artillery. Fuck the guy on the artillery. It's fun to be that guy because you just get like an insane amount of kills, but basically what the game turns into is you spawn and all of a sudden, boom, you're dead. And it's like, oh shit. And then you wait like 20 or 30 seconds, you spawn, and boom, you're dead. You wait 20 or 30 seconds, you spawn again, boom, you're dead. And then you hit Alt F4 if it's done well. But it's still really enjoy the game. But my god, that stuff it's also just terrifying when that stuff starts coming down on you. You're like, this is the audio is really good in that game. You're like, I am scared. I am shitting myself.
My favorite part of that is when you said, and then you just hit Alt F4.
That literally happened. I went to play the game and just died 3 times to artillery in a row, and I'm like, I guess I'm not playing the game.
I guess I'm done.
At that point, you know, it's just like, well, they've got us dialed in, and this is going to be the whole next, because those matches can go like 30, 40 minutes to an hour even. You're just like, yeah, this is going to be, it's going to be like this for a while, but it's still a really good game. I suggest people pick it up and try it. It's, if you're into kind of big battlefield World War II shooters, it's one of the best ones I've played.
And then my choice for favorite villain, I think for a lot of the reasons that Deus listed, plus the level of intrigue with the character, plus the general way that this character is written, really helped. I think it really made the character stand out. And again, the booba, Lady Dimitrescu.
It's not a hard
Easy choice.
It's really not a
Easy
very hard
choice.
choice for that one. I'm so glad that Pseudo said something different than us, because we just kind of like
hive-minded.
Like,
Hive-minded a little bit.
What came out that year? I guess it was this. But maybe we'll get some divergence now. Maybe.
I think we do. I think we get some divergence going on.
Hold on, I screwed up the answers before I can continue. I gotta check something real quick. I've got the wrong bit of information. I've got wrong information. Yeah. How did I lose that? What the hell? Okay, there we go. Much better. Thank you. All good now. It started with me. It started with Rage. Let's start with Pseudo.
We're doing favorite writing?
Yeah, we're going on to favorite writing.
Yeah. So yeah, mine I chose this year was It Takes Two. It is a fantastic game. Highly suggest playing it with someone or co-op partner if you can. It's kind of pretty beautifully written. It's one of those games that's very focused on the kind of narrative and the kind of message it's trying to convey. Mechanically and gameplay wise, it's fine. It's fairly fun. It's kind of just like co-op puzzler. But the kind of premise of the game is that there's these parents are getting a divorce, and they were just going to tell their or planning a divorce, and they're trying to tell their children about that, and then they get turned into dolls basically by something, and then they now have to work together to figure out kind of how to get back. And it's kind of just like a kind of a beautiful story going through, you know, kind of the whole aspect of, you know, why that happens, you know, how this affects people, just kind of all that stuff. And there's this book character that's kind of like the book of love. It's trying to, get them to repair the relationship and kind of work on it. It's for people who've kind of like been through that situation, it's kind of, handled really, really well, and kind of just a really kind of interesting lens into kind of what that looks like for people who haven't kind of been through it. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much for over the story, because it is, a narrative based game.
Yeah.
So, but overall, for writing wise, I think that was a quite a gem that came out, and I think it got quite a bit of awards. I think it may have won some best game from some of the.
It did.
Kind of think of the word for people who give out awards, but anyways, brain not working. But yeah, it's beautifully done. I think it might be on Game Pass now, so if you have Game Pass and you want to play it with someone, it's definitely not going to be for everyone, because it's one of those games where it's not always going to be fun because of the content that it's touching on and stuff like that. There is quite a bit of emotional weight that goes through it, but it is I'd say it's if it seems like it's up your alley, definitely check it out.
Excellent. I'm going to go next so I can take a small break and let Rage and Pseudo and Rage last next time. That sounds like the perfect way to do that. And for me, I made a minor edit to my writing because I realized I had made a faux pas. But for me, hands down, the best writing this year, hands down, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. That game always brings it in the writing, and the last couple expansions have been above and beyond.
And it's very interesting to see an MMO do that.
Yes.
That is very interesting to me, because often MMOs are aware that people are just going to skip as much of the dialogue and cutscenes as possible because they want to get back to the gameplay. But the level of care that the FF14 devs have put into their writing really shows.
Yeah, you play the whole game and you can tell it's actually a JRPG. It's not really an MMO. It's all about writing and story and a little bit of grinding. That's a JRPG. There's not a lot of multiplayer.
No, not really.
Dungeons, that's about it. But the dungeons are good, and the dungeons took a step up. But the writing, the last expansion is really when they've... The one before this one, they started humanizing the enemies. And in this one, they've really just taken it to the point where you know them by name, you understand their history, you know why they're doing the things they're doing. They're flushed out characters that make sense. And now there's other evils and stuff going on, and it's a fantastic RPG story. It just is. Even if you don't like MMOs, it's worth a playthrough just for the story. It's great. And don't worry if you're not good at MMOs, the dungeons are pretty brainless most of the way. By the time you get to stuff that's a little bit harder, you should know what's going on. And if you need help, come ask me. I'll teach you how to play it. That's what I do. Rage.
So, my choice for favorite writing was something that I honestly didn't see coming. I was sort of surprised by this in a very, very pleasant way. And the reason that I was surprised and so happy about it is because it reminded me of some of my favorite films when I was a child. I always loved Pixar movies. I always loved the 3D animated style that they have. I always loved the way that they're written. They feel good. They make you happy. And that means that my favorite writing of the year was Kena Bridge of Spirits. Really, really loved the writing in this one. Very much feel good. Very much a game that encourages the same sort of feelings that you get from a Pixar film. It was very well handled.
Kena's wonderful. That was a wonderful game.
Yeah.
Gameplay is pretty solid as well.
Excellent. I haven't actually touched it yet. Just touching on Zilo saying 14 is very different from 11, and that's because 11 was made by Sakaguchi before he was kicked out of Squaresoft. and 14 is made by the new team. Sakaguchi and Uematsu are gone. Nobuo actually, the songs that he wrote, they hired him to get a couple more songs written, even though he wasn't directly working for them, and they used a lot of his old work from Final Fantasy in it so that they can continuously put his name in the credits for the music.
It sells games.
They know.
It sells games.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Kino's on PC as well. Right, I should get it on PS5. I really should. I really, really should. Okay. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to let you guys decide how you want to go. Take long enough for me to do this over here. Actually, you know what? I might even just.
Do you want to just paste our picks into favorite writing?
It's already in there. Everything's... Oh, writing. Oh, yeah. Okay. What are you doing to me? God damn it!
I'm trying to keep this stream going. I'm sorry.
No, that's not. That's Pseudozan serum from mine. Damn it! What are you doing to me? Damn it, me! Okay, we're good.
So while Deus is getting that sorted out, let's talk a little bit about visual style. And this category, as we always do with our reviews, is not necessarily about fidelity. Fidelity is not the key. Visual style is more the way that they incorporate the art used in making the game into the game itself. Are areas unique? Are they easily identifiable? Do they have a pleasing to the eye, or if the intent is to be unpleasing to the eye, an unpleasing to the eye aesthetic? Is it a game that stands out from the rest in some way or another? It could be something that's hyper realistic. It could be something that is so far from realistic that is just absolutely absurd, like Carrion. But the choice here for me was very easy. Again, I spoke in the previous category to my love for the Pixar style animated films, and that made my choice of favorite visual style this year very easy, because Kena Bridge of Spirits came out and it looks like a bloody Pixar film, except it runs at like 100 FPS, and I have no idea how they did it.
Yeah, the fur for anyone who's ever done animation and stuff like that is incredibly hard to do, and it's incredibly hard to do real time, especially with the amount of lighting they have and the stylistic choices.
For the longest amount of time, rendering fur was used as a way to overload a video card.
Still is. Fur mark. Hey, Kuro, welcome.
Hello.
Don't worry about saying finally. I probably haven't streamed since you last tried. I've been sick.
Starting to feel better, though. Feeling better is good.
That's not a sick cough, don't worry.
So, Zudo, how about your favorite visual style this year?
I went with Returnal again, because I'm a sucker for gritty, kind of depressing looks. But anyone who's played that game will kind of know it's unique. It's one of those games where, like, stylistic wise, it was one of the kind of higher fidelity graphics for PS5. They're kind of showing off, what the hardware can actually do now. But I really like the contrast between the kind of dark, gritty world and enemies, but the kind of bright lights for the tech and the bright lights for the kind of projectiles and stuff that's coming at you. And the way that it kind of lights everything up, it's a neat kind of aesthetic. It's one that I enjoy quite a bit. A lot of the art that I make is kind of just like dark, foggy stuff with bright, neon lights kind of everywhere.
That's
so
true.
It's just right up my alley. There's a lot of really neat stuff in the design of things as well. Just overall the character designs, boss designs, world designs, the walls. There's a whole thing with the character's home. You kind of just like you'll come across just a house that's just there, and it's supposed to feel out of place, but with kind of how it looks and how it's styled, it still kind of fits with everything that's in there. And each of the different biomes kind of have a different color palette to them. The first one is dark blues and a lot of grays. The next one's a lot of reds, oranges, and still kind of got that gritty feeling because there's a lot of stone. But it's kind of neat to go between all these different biomes and color palettes, but it still kind of feels cohesive together, since the player's color is kind of her armor and everything is kind of white, so she can kind of go between all these and not stand out too much or feel like she conflicts with it, because she's supposed to kind of already stand out, but since it's a bit dim, it doesn't feel like you're like, when you're in the red areas and stuff like that, you don't feel like you're just completely sticking out and out of place, which I kind of liked. And the way that the kind of tech works with everything, and the lighting for all that stuff, the shooting, the shields, all that other kind of stuff, it just all kind of coheses together very, very well.
Yeah, I loved running into that house, and yeah, big shouts out. Nobody really realizes or thinks about how hard it is to make an asset look like it doesn't belong, but still belongs.
It's very easy to make something not fit with your visual style. Very easy. But to have something look incredibly out of place and yet still looks like it belongs in the scene, that's difficult to do.
Yeah, they nailed it with that house. Because you're going along and it's just like, it's not like anything. You're like, that is alien. But it still looks like it's there. Yeah. Beautiful. And I find it interesting that we all chose stand out but belongs. Ah, gotcha. Yeah. Nope. Yeah, definitely doesn't belong and stands out, but it still looks like it's actually there and exists within that space still. Rather than like, like if you had like a realistically rendered scene and you plopped a cartoon tree in the middle of it, it just wouldn't fit. You wouldn't even buy it or believe it. You wouldn't even think of it as part of it. It's like they used the wrong asset. And that's all that you would have from it. Yeah. Yeah, or an asset flip game. Any asset flip game is a good reference. Yeah, where the models are like 3 times taller than the boats that they used and stuff because they didn't even size it right. Yeah, no. I find it interesting that all 3 of us chose games that were on the PS5. 2 of us actually chose PS5 exclusives. Because Ratchet and Clank is like playing a fucking Pixar game. Pixar movie. Yeah. It is. It's unreal. It is unreal.
The Vertec has come a long way.
Oh man, when I was at my I bought it for my uncle, and gave it to him for Christmas. And when I delivered it to him, I got Ratchet and Clank for him, and I got to sit down and play it for a little bit. And I was like, I'm moving the movie.
Yeah, it's nuts when the cutscene just becomes the game, especially since they do a lot of the texture streaming, so there's no loading screens.
Yeah.
So it's just you're just in it, and you're like, oh, neat, cool.
Yeah.
It's
wow.
Kino is very much the same way for me, of just like, oh my god, it's a Pixar film. They did it.
I'm moving the movie. It's amazing. It's amazing. If you haven't played one of these games on the PS5 you got to try it. Returnal as well. The fidelity level, Returnal feels more like a game with really, really, really good graphics. But the graphics are so flawlessly put together with no load times. It is a very immersive experience as well, especially with the controller. The way it uses the controller is so cool. But Kina and Ratchet, where the stylized graphics are getting to with the current processing power we have is unreal. It's getting to where I imagined it may get one day when I was a kid.
Yep. It's a similar feeling, at least for me, to putting on a high quality VR headset for the first time. And you just kind of go, holy shit, they did it. They actually did it. It's real.
Yep. My experience after first using a VR headset, and it was Pseudo who put me in it, so he can attest to this. Basically, the first thing I said was, yeah, that's VR.
Yep, like, oh shit, they did it. That was my first reaction too. I went to a VR arcade, I put it on, I'm like, oh yeah, they did it. It's here now.
But yeah, that's where we're getting. And I know you can't get one easily, but they're getting easier and easier. And if you're in Canada, I can probably find the Discord I was in again. Can you get a list of servers you've left?
Probably.
Maybe.
Anyway, there's some really good Discords in Canada for getting PS5s. I'm sure there's others for US, but there's active people from all sorts of areas with different channels. So like I was just in the BC channel. And I was just watching out, and constantly you just see people popping up. There's some here, there's some here, there's some here, there's some here. And then somebody popped up with there's some right by the place where my mom lives. So I just gave her a quick call. Hey, are you busy? No? You mind driving up here and seeing if they have one? And they had one. It's like that. She called me up. She's like, yeah, they got one. I was like, buy it, 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 buy it. She's like, okay, but I need to know what game you buy it, buy it, buy it. That was literally how the phone call went. I'm not exaggerating. She's trying to get an answer out of me, and I'm just saying buy it over and over and over again. Just like, yeah, get it, yes, get it, yes. We got it.
Mission accomplished.
Yep, that's my opinion of the PS5 still. It's pretty great. It really is. That asset streaming is something. When you bounce from one world to another world in real time in Ratchet and Clank, and like literally every asset in the whole world has changed and nothing you could see is anywhere in sight anymore, and there wasn't a blink of a slowdown, you're like, whoa, that's cool. I've never seen that before.
And the crazy thing is, that's off of a... well, I don't know about the internal link, but the external PS4 SSD is actually off of a PCI Gen 2x4 link. It's all that controller. It's insane.
Well, they also have a new asset pipe, basically, where there's a connection direct to the video card from the hard drive.
Forward to
that's the thing. That's the special.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, right? Like the
controller
storage
and
controller.
a controller and a new road. Really, a controller and a new road. that's what did it. It's the new road. The new road is what people overlook. You know, like you're taking this big highway like this in a big U, right? And they keep making this road faster and faster and faster. And then instead of making this road faster, they just opened a new road right here. That's basically what we're talking about. Visually, this is what happened. And it's not necessarily a fast road, it's just a new road, and it's much shorter. So you just take that road. It's like opening a bridge over the river to where you work. It's pretty great. It's a good thing. Favorite character? Who wants it?
So this is a category we all kind of struggled on. 2021
forgive us.
Not a great year for character writing. Not a great year for writing in general, just because a lot of the games that came out were more focused on just having a game come out, which, as it turns out, is pretty important if you want to make money, than necessarily having the most involved character writing, the most in-depth backstories, etc., etc.
And let's be straight up and up forward honest. Resident Evil's never had good writing.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It is some of my favorite writing, but it is not good writing.
No, it's pretty camp.
And I copped out because the Control Ultimate Edition came out this year on consoles. And Jesse Faden is a excellent character. Incredibly well written. If you didn't get a chance to check it out yet, you can generally find Control for pretty cheap. It's occasionally on for free. I know Epic was giving it away for free for a while. It has definitely been on PS Plus. If you get a chance to play Control, I highly recommend it because Jesse's writing is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yep, I can't disagree with anything that Rage has said. And you know what? If Control was actually a votable game within our rules, I probably would have chosen it. Because Jesse Faden was probably better than anything else that came out this year. And since I was having a hard time and then Rage broke the rules, I was like, well, I'm not going to be a jerk and copy Rage's rule break. I'm just going to break the rules myself and go with Stubbs the Zombie. Because that hit PC this year. And Stubbs the Zombie is amazing. And you should play Stubbs the Zombie. I pointed at the wrong camera. That's the problem with more than one camera. I've gotten pretty good at, like, you know, point at Rage and point at pseudo kind of things and stuff like that. I'm getting better at that, but now I've got more cameras. The Ultimate Edition of Control came out in 2020. The PC release was in 2020.
Yes, the PC release was in 2020, but it came out in consoles this year.
Yeah. That's why I went with Stubbs, which, you know, its release was 2005.
I can't say anything because I totally did Yakuza for like a couple years in a row. Characters that have existed long before. Any chance I can get to choose Majima, I would. I was tempted to do it again because Yakuza 6 or Yakuza 7 came out on PS5 this year, but I was like, I should stop.
I would have backed up your Majima. You can change it before last second if you want. I don't care.
No, it's fine. It was a rough year in characters. I should have picked something from It Takes Two because the characters in that are pretty good, but it's too hard to choose from all of them as which one would be my favorite. As well as it's just been kind of a weird year, so we're just gonna get, you know, weird answers in response. So I'm gonna go with Stubbs as well because if I can do that, it came out on PC technically this year. I'm gonna do that because that character is
Stubbs
fantastic.
is amazing. Stubbs is amazing, and if you haven't played Stubbs the Zombie, you should. And since Rage doesn't seem to want to play Stubbs the Zombie with me, we should play it, Pseudo.
The problem was Parsec. Not that I don't want to play. I actually have access to it. No, we had nothing but controller issues with Parsec.
Oh.
But I did actually sign up for Game Pass, and it's on Game Pass, so we can play it now.
Does it have remote multiplayer?
I hope so.
No.
I'm not sure how much work they put into it because it is a port of a Xbox.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it has online co-op.
Rip.
But I'm totally down to get Parsec working. We can do it. That's something within our capability.
Rage to host maybe, and then see.
Yeah.
Get someone to host or take some fiddling, but once Parsec works, it's actually pretty good.
Can you mod that in?
Mod that in?
That would be a major undertaking. Major undertaking. So can you mod that in? Theoretically, yes, but I say theoretically yes to everything in software because theoretically, yes.
Can we? Sure. Would we? No. Actually, can we? Probably not. It would be rough.
It's probably above
somebody.
That's above my
Somebody added multiplayer to Sekiro.
Yeah,
it can be done.
Yeah,
they've gotten a lot better at modding in multiplayer because a lot of engines and stuff you can kind of slice shit in a bit better, and network stacks have gotten a lot better. I remember back when they're trying to mod in multiplayer to Oblivion, and it was just a shit show. And then,
to be fair to the modding in multiplayer to Sekiro versus Stubbs, Sekiro has some online talking already, at least programmed into it.
It was before the patch. Yeah. It was before the patch.
Because like in theory, like the way that it kind of works to mod multiplayer into single player games is that, you know, the game's still rendering locally for each thing, so you just have to sync that game state and inject that new character into it. So you can, in theory, add an additional, you know, layer to that. It's just that when the mechanics don't really support co-op, it gets really weird for the things you don't think about, like, pausing menus, transitions, all that kind of stuff. Gets really, really weird, really, really fast. But if you wanted to just...
I could see the brain turning as you thought about all the shit you would have to deal with. Your brow just furrowed as you laughed, like, oh no.
Because it's something that's been explored in the past, and like, there's been a few games that didn't have multiplayer that they added it to later. Like, I mean, they eventually put it into... No Man's Sky, and I think Zomboid started off as just single player, and they put multiplayer into it. And they just had another massive release for multiplayer. Was it Green? I think Green Hell was a game that started single player, and they added co-op into it later. It's a bit different nowadays, like depending on like Stubbs was made on the Halo engine, so technically, the engine itself would support it. You wouldn't have access to those tools that would be used. You would just but technically speaking, like there would be some code there that could handle it. But nowadays, since a lot of games are made in engines like Unity and Unreal, it's not completely out of the picture to add multiplayer later. It's still very difficult because when you make a game and design around single player, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. And if you make a game for multiplayer, there's a lot of decisions you have to make and design choices. But it's a lot more. It's more possible. I don't like to say easier. It's more possible now than it was before, but still very, very, very difficult.
Yeah. There's just so many fundamental things that have to be considered differently from single player to multiplayer. Once you have multiple copies of the state to account for, things get fucky.
To say the least.
Because then you have to consider situations when they disagree. Because they're going to disagree. There's going to be times where my game and your game say different things. And then who's right? And how do you resolve that? Yeah, I'll leave you with that.
The desync for Zomboid has been kind of interesting lately. I'll be walking by our base, and then I'll just see my friend's character jump out the window and land on the floor, and then just disappear. And I'm like, because what happens is he starts walking but stops, but the game is doing kind of predictive because it wants to keep it synced up. And then for my client, either the packets get dropped or something happens. He doesn't get the packet where he stopped walking. So the next thing for me, it shows him jumping out the window, but then it syncs up again by the time he hits the ground and goes back inside. And it's like, oh, okay. Anyone who's ever done like LAN, anyone who's played online with someone like a streamer and then watched their version versus yours, you'll see kind of like how different it can really be. Networking in games is still just a shit show.
If you go back far enough, if you go back far enough into the multiplayer eras, you've already seen it back in the days of Diablo 2 and World of Warcraft and stuff like that. The predictive algorithms were very, very, very simple, and you could have relatively large amounts of desync at times in those games. You're actually not playing that game in real time. You feel like you're playing it in real time on your end. It's actually big time chunks on the server side for the polling. It was quite ridiculous, and that's why you'd like be playing with someone and you'd see them just run away from the group and like off into the distance and then through a wall and out the other side, and then they'd reappear back in the middle of the group and you'd be like, what? That's your client and the server disagreeing on what's happening. Your client thought he was running away, and your client just kept trying to make him run away. And then when it got the update from the server, so the server's like, no, he's back in the group. And your client was like, oh, okay, I'll just put him there. I totally play Zomboid if the UI was a bit better.
The UI is rough.
It's terrible. It's absolutely it's just so many lists of things, and it doesn't help you at all.
What do you mean getting off topic? Off topic is the name of our show, Glenn Conn. You know this.
I mean, not literally, but it could. It could literally be that.
we're halfway through the awards, and we're halfway through the show. I mean, it's all planned. Planned.
We actually do plan time for random banter and talking and interacting with the chat, because that's why we're here.
Turns out we like you guys and each other.
Zomboid is the UI is rough. There's remote play split screen, so you can try it out with someone who has it, but then you have to use a controller, which makes that UI even worse. But it's once you kind of get used to it, it's not too bad. It's kind of rough if you have like a large screen, because the default, there's no like proper UI scaling by default, so you have to kind of enable it or mod it in. But it's gotten a bit better from what it was before, but for the most part, it's just lists and lists of stuff that you kind of just click and drag. But there's transferable buttons. You've kind of find ways to kind of get used to it. But there's a lot of depth in that game. I've been really enjoying it. I think I've put like 30 or 40 hours into it in the last couple of weeks since I've just been sitting at home, not doing anything. But it's just those sandbox games that you can kind of just configure to do whatever.
Sorry, which one was that?
Project Zomboid.
Oh, Project Zomboid. Okay. Yeah, I've seen you playing that a lot. It actually interests me greatly, and I really would love to even get Rage in there if he's at all interested, and the three of us try to survive a zombie invasion together. It's not a long-term kind of play, but I think just jumping in and doing it as an experience a couple times could be pretty interesting as a group.
I mean, the 30 to 40 hours has probably been the last couple of days, to be honest. I don't know when I started really playing it. It was probably, I think it was probably since like the 2nd, so it's probably only been less than a week. I've had over 100 hours now for Zomboid. I just try to make it not sound as bad. But yeah, it's just those games that have like the emergent gameplay that I love. Like yesterday, or like you can configure everything. So I started off with like really basic, easy zombies, and then I'm like, okay, I kind of want a challenge now, because there's not really more progression. So you kind of design the challenges, and I'm doing a 28 days later playthrough with a friend right now. So the zombies are all sprinters, but we have them kind of dumbed down a bit at night, but they still the odd one will still actually sprint at you. And my God, it's terrifying. You just can't go out during the day or go out really without a vehicle. And we have this pristine Hummer that we found, which is a mod into the game. And we were taking it to a military base to raid. And on the way back, I ended up just hitting a fence because I was driving on a railroad, and I'd move out of the way of the zombie, and I smashed into a fence and totaled the car while the horde of zombies is running up on us. And we're like, oh shit, we got to just run now. And it just becomes a shit show. And now we're walking back to our base, so we had to try and find a car to hotwire it, and we're trying to go through all these broken cars. And it's just the adventures you find yourself in are just, stuff you can't script, and the stuff that happens is just wild. Unfortunately, somehow my friend keeps dying. I've been doing the 20 days challenge, and like if I die, we have to restart it. I've made it to 10 days now. So we're keeping it going with my guy. So he's just kind of become expendable. So anything risky, he'll go out and do. We tried to get gas at a gas station and last night, and then a horde showed up and surrounded his car, and his car stalled and he couldn't move. And instead of like staying in the car because I was going to come ram the zombie so he could move or ram his car, he tried to get out to run over to me, and they just instantly ate him.
That seems like a bad idea, I'm not going to lie.
And then so I'm like, oh shit. So then I had to get in my car, but my car, the front left window was smashed already, which means they could just grab me and rip me out. So I'm like trying to get my car. I'm like, please start. And like it always kind of jitters a bit. And thankfully I managed to get out of there, but it was, it keeps happening. We just, the risk of my favorite one of the last little tangent is we started in the city to make it, even harder for ourselves. We'll spawn in the city, we'll try and get out, which was a whole adventure in itself. And you're basically just running in the streets, and all the zombies are following you. Like, let's run up this fire escape and get to the roof, because maybe, they won't get up there, or we can, try and get somewhere. So that was the stupidest idea I've had. I get up there, I go in the window, and the fucking floor is just filled with zombies. I'm like, well, fuck. I go to turn around, and there's zombies sprinting up the fire escape, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So then we're just like we just separate and start running, just like trying to find somewhere. We can't go out the window because we're so high up. So we end up into this like apartment, like this like a hallway together where there's a bunch of apartments, and they're banging on the door. We're trying to figure out, we check all the apartments, there's no windows out, do we just try and hide in one of these and hope they don't check? And before we can make a decision, the door breaks down and they just beeline in, but they all just beeline to my friend, and I just run out while they just start eating him, and I somehow just get out and run away. I'm just like, okay. And that just started that. Eventually it led up to us just running into the forest and just walking through trees in darkness for like quite a while, and eventually we found a highway. And as we got separated because we just couldn't see each other, and you can kind of shout to like show up on the screen, but if you shout, the zombies will hear you too. Yeah. So I get to the road, and I'm like, oh no, come south, come like bottom of the screen, head down. And then as he's showing up, I just see these zombies start running into the trees, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, oh, you got company. And then sure enough on his screen, they just running at him. He's like, uh-oh. And since we were running through the forest, his clothes had all like gotten deteriorated and wrecked, and they just ran up and just ate him. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. They ran right by me because I was just sitting there, and they just ran into the bushes, and he was making noise. And I was like, oh, this is I keep getting you killed. I feel bad. I don't know what happens. It's just unlucky.
I mean, not bad enough to stop, mind you, but bad.
Yeah, it keeps happening. We pulled by a van. I'm like, oh, like hotwire this van, and then he gets out to do it, and then a zombie just runs up on him again. I'm like, oh no.
It's I feel bad that you died, but I'd feel worse if I died situation.
I just take the Shrek quote from Lord Farquaad, and it's like, it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
So that is where Pseudo's been putting his time into. Segueing real nicely into what I've been putting most of my time into lately. My choice for the soundtrack for the year would be Endwalker as well, because if there is one thing that can consistently be said about even new Final Fantasy, fantastic soundtracks.
Music's always great.
Music is always on point. And the story's great. It's worth a playthrough. It's worth a playthrough of the main story. And if you play it diligently, you can get through in your free month.
I didn't. The choice that I made for favorite soundtrack is one that is definitely not controversial for people of our age. For people of our age, they're actually currently not offering the free month in 14 because the servers are overloaded. But the choice that I made was very easy for me. It's very much a nostalgia choice. It's something that came from my childhood. It's something that I spent countless hours in my parents' basement playing as a youngin'. But it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Very, very easy choice for me. The soundtrack there, even in the original versions of those games, was considered legendary, and they managed to get the licensing for most of the tracks again. So it was great.
I've only played 2 or 3 hours of Pro Skater in my life.
It's fun. It's learn button presses to do in a row and then do that a bunch of times. Solid. It's like my version of an MMO rotation.
Yeah, that's fair.
I grew up with those games, so they've been fantastic, and it came out on Switch recently as well.
Yeah, I grew up with them as well through all my teens. All my friends played them.
I remember being so happy when they finally just added free skate, because just trying to just do what I wanted to do in the 2 minutes always felt like so much pressure. You even just like learn tricks and do stuff, and like this time limit's always going down. I'm like, and just having free skate, I'm like, oh, finally, I can actually practice a bit, and then it just kind of just unfocus and do whatever. But those games have been fantastic. I still think 3 is one of my favorite because of the Canada level and just how silly it is. I think it was 3 that had that. Yeah, great level design, and it's amazing. Like the things that, like, it's one of those things that show don't tell. Just you skate around and everything you see can still kind of tell you what's kind of going on around, even though it's not like a coherent story. It's still just like little tidbits of just like humor that are scattered around.
Yeah, super well done. So this is your turn now, Pseudo. What was your favorite soundtrack?
You've talked about Rage's favorite soundtrack.
Yeah, mine was going to be a Loop Hero. I love chiptune. I love retro kind of themed music, and this is one of kind of those a bit of a gem that came out this year. But the gameplay itself wasn't really fully my style. I'm not always great on games and of this kind of genre, but the soundtrack is great. It's fantastic.
I believe the word is ballin'. As a ballin' soundtrack.
It is one that I do listen to, even though I don't play the game too much. I just listen to some of the tracks that are there.
Nice. Yeah, the game was fun for a minute.
It gives me nostalgia for games that I have played in yesterday's past, and not for this game itself. But like, huge shout out to the artists that made those tracks, because they are fantastic.
Right on.
If Shovel Knight had come out this year, it would have been an easy pick. I still need to play the new Yacht Club game.
Next year we have the Risk of Rain 2 expansion to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
That'll make it into the soundtracks, I'm betting.
Yeah, that's Christodoulou something?
Christodoulou? I believe it's Christodoulou.
Maybe. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Fantastic
I don't
musician.
even know if he knows how to pronounce his name, to be honest.
Fantastic musician, fantastic composer. Check out his work. It's fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So, favorite indie games. This one was, for me, sort of an interesting pick. There were a couple of pretty good indie games that came out this year, and then there were a couple of games that were quite good that came out of early access this year, which is always a nice treat when something comes out of early access and is actually good. And the game that I chose this year was something that sort of just kind of squeaked in under the wire. It just barely made 1.0 nearing the end of the year here, but my choice was GTFO. It's got a lot of the hardcore mechanics that you see in something like Tarkov, which I personally really, really enjoy. There's a lot of consequence in the game. There's a lot of needing to understand what your actions mean, what's going to happen because of them, choosing your route, being able to plan your way through things. The inventory system is great. The way that they've handled the rotation of the levels is phenomenal. You're going to be constantly getting new content. And at the end of the day, it's fun. It's a fun game. I wouldn't recommend it single player. But with a group of friends, it's a great way to collaborate on something that is difficult but rewarding, which is what I really wanted out of Tarkov. And we're going to be going back to the game now that Deus is feeling better, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Have
Same with Tarkov.
enjoyed it immensely.
I do want to do more Tarkov. I am getting better.
You are improving. This is true.
I killed a PMC with my scav.
Nice.
And limped out with his shit.
Double nice.
Well, ran out on a black leg. It's closer to it. Not really limped. Ran in pain. Just but at full speed. Pseudo. Your favorite indie game.
Yeah, so this one was hard for me because I play a lot of indie games. It's also hard because most indie games are kind of just stuck in early access hell.
Yeah, so you have to figure out the ones that actually came out at 1.0 this year. That's my hard part too.
Yeah,
Valheim's not 1.0 yet. It doesn't count.
When Valheim comes out, it's getting indie game of the year.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what it's up against.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. Like it's technically not out yet, so you don't want to choose it now because then when it releases, you can choose it then. But there are some games that are like, I'd say sometimes like if it was like really outstanding and like they had a super solid release or they had like a full planned release schedule, then I'd be a little bit better with it because then I could treat it as like, this is technically, once you start charging money and doing stuff, it's released. You've released your game. We can call it what we want, like early access or whatever, but you've released the game at this point. There's a in production build of your game with paying customers. So it's technically that'll be your 1.0 and then your updated versions are your 2.0, your 3.0, whatever. But going off for official releases, I'm going to go with Gunfire Reborn. It's a game I've been playing for quite a while and it finally hit 1.0 this year. And I meant to pester Deus and rage about this earlier so we could play it when it hit 1.0, but I can't remember. I was probably in school at that time. But it's a really, really well done roguelike shooter with some RPG elements where you're kind of living up your characters. And it's just a lot of fun. I've been playing it a whole lot. I deserve a shout out for the team that put this together. The design decisions are very well done, especially for roguelikes like this, especially ones that are like have random loot spawns and have random builds similar to like Risk of Rain. It can be really hard to kind of balance that. But they did quite a good job. Yeah, if Zombite came out this year, if Build 41 was an official release, then I probably would have chose that. But yeah, Zomboid has been in early access since 2013, so it's been a while. So, another game, some other indie games that came out, I want to give a shout out is a Thunder Tier 1 released. And that one is quite fantastic.
Pseudo's been writing little mods for it. He likes it so much.
Yeah, my friend's been the one been actually doing the mods. It's just through Cheat Engine right now. I'm eventually gonna write it and actually like save it into a C# script,
Lua script or something.
Make a trainer in C or C#, and then do that. But for now, we just boot up Cheat Engine because. Yay, co-op, hack the server, it's fine. We're so glad when it worked. We're like, what if the host just cranks this setting past the value? And I'm like, oh yeah, it just works. We made it so that like the max, when you can change how much the enemy count there is, and the max you can put it to is 150%. So like, only 50% more people isn't much. So we modded it so we could put it to, 1,000%, 1,500, percent. So it goes from like a very, close contact tactical shooter to just like Alien Swarm with enemies, and it's still just a whole lot of fun, and it's just hilarious, just the chaos that ensues, and like still somehow runs, which is great. I mean, I've got strong, but like the network stuff holds up. I think it's built on the Unreal Engine, so thankfully it can kind of just do it without having to optimize it too much. But I hope that they maybe I should post videos that are sent to them like, hey, you guys can do this. You can make a mode where it's just a lot, because there are mods now for like a zombie mode and stuff like that, but there aren't that many characters. So then that's kind of how our mod started, was like, what if we just cranked up the amount of zombies so it's more like an alien shooter? And then we're like, what if we did that in the regular game mode too? And we're like, holy shit, this is hilarious. You just run with like the 200 meg things, and when you have to do like a defend objective, there's just so many people coming that it is a whole different game. It's great. Dismantle hit 1.0 this year as well. That game's pretty fun. It's kind of just you're going around wrecking things to get materials to craft things and exploring this world, and it's well paced and well designed. It's kind of like a more casual, relaxing experience, even though there's combat and stuff in it. But it's got a decent amount of time to put into it. So I've enjoyed that one as well, and wanted to give them a bit of a spotlight.
Right on. Yeah, it really has been. There's we play a lot of indie games, but we don't play a lot of indie games that have actually come out. Yeah. Especially this year. Yeah, so I ended up with and I realize I've got the same answer as other people a bunch of times, but Rage and I are very similar. That's why we became friends so quick, and Pseudo's my brother, so we're gonna agree on a lot of things as well, even though we all play different games. And I ended up with GTFO this time as well, because that's a really
good,
cool game. There's so much flavor to the style and just the presentation. There's not a lot of story shoved in your face, but you get a lot of sense of what's going on, and you're forced to pay attention to everything. You have to pay attention to everything going on or you're dead.
Well, and that one sequence in the first level of this rundown, yeah, that's what they're called, rundowns, yes. The first level, the sequence at the end of the first level of this run, or the 1.0 rundown, I don't know if it's changed, was just like, it was so cool.
I mean, it probably still gets my indie game of the year just based on the loading screen for the rundown.
Yeah, the loading screen is sweet. The intro is sweet. The UI itself could use some work because it's not all on the screen at the same time, which is bad.
Oh yeah, that part is terrible, but the rest of it is not bad.
No, the artistic style of the UI is really cool, but it needs to be on the screen.
Yeah, but I mean, even the layout and the positioning of things and like that part's all not bad. If it was just all visible on the screen at the same time, it'd be great. I'd be super happy. Yeah. I've seen a lot worse. I've seen a lot worse. Yeah. Yeah, definitely check out GTFO if you have some buddies to check it out with. The bots made it a lot more reasonable, but don't try to do it solo. If you're going to try to play by yourself, make sure you take 3 bots with you. and learn how to control them, because you can command them to do things, and you will need to use their tools and stuff like that.
They do get stuck though, and then you're just wrecked.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Hopefully that's been fixed. Hopefully. Hopefully. We're gonna go with hopefully on that one.
One of those things that'll just kind of happen,
Nope,
unfortunately,
that's not
sometimes.
right.
But
There we go. Unfortunate. But now we get to move on to Hidden Gem.
Hidden Gem is one of those categories that honestly I kind of suck at. not very good at it. I tend to play games from development studios that I trust. Those are the games that I go to and end up spending a lot of time in. But this year there were a couple of smaller studios with games that I checked out, and this Hidden Gem was sort of a toss-up between two games for me, and they did actually both end up getting awards. The one that I chose for the Hidden Gem this year was Death's Door, and it's a wonderful little action platformy puzzlery adventure game. It's great. It really reminded me of like old school Link to the Past style Zelda stuff. A lot of really cool interactions in the game. The art style is adorable. You get to play as a little bird, and he's the cutest. And all of the other like bird characters that you interact with are awesome. Really, really loved it. Highly recommend. Go check it out.
Cool. I don't even know if I've heard of it.
Yeah, I did it. I found a hidden game.
Yeah, I mean, that's way more hidden than Pseudo's in my choices. My choice...
It's true, I do really like birds.
I don't know if I could call my choice a hidden gem, but it's my choice because it seemed to be completely glossed over when it came out. I didn't hear anybody talk about it or play it or mention it. And I didn't even get to really play it, but I am familiar with it and I mean to play it, and it's high on my list.
Especially since I added it to your backlog earlier today.
Actually, I guess now that it's officially on my backlog, it's low on my list. But it's on the list officially, and we will be playing it, so I'll be waiting until then. And that was Axiom Verge 2, because I love Axiom Verge 1. I love it.
That was a wonderful game.
So good. Best Metroid clone I've ever played. And I super look forward to 2. The story, everything about the first one was great. The story, the art style, the layout, the level design was top tier. The weapons were well done. The bosses were good. It wasn't super hard, at least for me, but I play a lot of those kind of games, so probably well balanced. And that's probably why I just smashed it. He loved it as well. Excellent. I'm glad somebody else played it, because part 1 did so well. Like, it was a really popular game. I thought part 2 was going to be like, you know, marketed and people are going to talk about it. And then it just kind of quietly came out and nobody talked about it. I was like, huh. So we're going to be playing it.
There was no marketing for Axiom Verge 2.
So I'm going to call that one my hidden gem, and you should go play that. Yeah. If you like Metroidvanias, go play that.
It's not even really a Metroidvania. It's just a Metroid.
Yeah, it's a Metroid clone, but same deal. Great level design. Great level design. That's the most important part of a Metroid clone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. I know I said you something else, but I'm gonna change mine because I think for Hidden Gem, it's a really good time to kind of spotlight. You know, some of the indie games and stuff like that too. And I don't know why I forgot about it, but I'm going to put Dismantle for.
Oh yeah, that game came out, didn't it?
Yeah, it hit 1.0. It's I was surprised it hit 1.0. I had a really fast early access time, which I really appreciate. But
that's how it's spelt, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I sent it in Discord.
I can't have Discord up. I've got literally all 3 screens covered with text files and stuff to manage this.
Damn.
This one. Dismantle.
Not mantle, but dismantle.
This one. But yeah, it's open world crafting, which is kind of right up my alley, and zombie-ish things, which is also right up my alley. When I grabbed it for early access, I was expecting, a really early access experience, but it was pretty far along. There's a lot of content to it. I was pretty impressed. Probably why their 1.0 was actually pretty quick after it. So I feel like it's going to be a game for everyone. The kind of premise of the game is that you're just kind of going through these different territories. There is a bit of progression planned for it, even though it doesn't feel like it, but I love open world games that actually have goals in mind and progression, but are still kind of sandboxy to where you can kind of just get lost and explore if you want. But you're just kind of up getting materials, you're just dismantling everything, you're smacking dressers and walls and things and getting materials, and you'll hit something and it says you need such and such strength, or you need such and such item to break it. So then you go like, okay, well, how do I get that? And you figure it out, and eventually you get that item, like, oh, I can go back and break all that stuff down now and get the materials. And it's kind of like a zone out, relax, just kind of get lost in it. But then there's still enemies to fight. There's kind of like your typical zombies. They're kind of scary at first, but eventually you get weapons that will one-shot them, and then you start getting stronger and stronger enemies, and the boss fights are, kind of interesting and well planned, and it's neat. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've quite enjoyed it. The map is quite huge. I was very kind of surprised by that. And there's a lot to the game. And explore into it does get a bit repetitive. The game loop is quite simple. But there is still kind of a bit of lore hidden under it. You're going around finding the tapes, which you then play, which gives you some experience, but then you can kind of hear what's going on. And as you kind of progress, you start kind of figuring out like what the hell happened to this island and kind of and what's going on. And yeah, I think if you're kind of interested into that open world crafting stuff or exploration night, I'd definitely say check it out. It's well done. It's really well polished. It's got a good style to it. Quite enjoyable. The map isn't too sparse. It can be a bit of travel time in between, but they've done kind of a good job of having things to look for. So the way that it kind of works is you have like fireplaces or bonfires that you camp at, and that's where you can kind of you save, you replenish your health, you reset your materials. So you're kind of searching for that stuff, but you unlock. There's like cell phone towers that you get to. Or radio towers that you get to. When you get to them, you can unlock and reveal the whole map and see what's actually there. So while it can be sparse, you can kind of see the paths to take, and there's usually stuff to do along the way, or you'll see kind of stuff that went down. There's a little bit of story that's kind of shown through everything. There wasn't too much time where I'm just like, oh, I have to trek and I'm super bored. There's a lot of that, and it's also designed in a way where you'll see like a bridge that's up on one side, but if you get around to the river, you can knock that bridge down, so now you have a shortcut, so you don't have to go through those long treks over and over again, and there's fast travel and all that kind of good stuff. So even though the map's quite large, it's kind of like you have to walk through it once, you see what's there, but you don't have to keep kind of trekking back and forth and wasting too much time.
Nothing unique, but all the right elements from all the other games. Yeah. Thanks indeed. That is not the game that I was thinking it was. I thought I knew what Dismantle was. I did. So I've been ignoring it when it keeps popping up on my Steam list. I was thinking there was another indie game I saw where everything was voxel and you had to get from one point to another point in a set amount of time, and before the time starts, which is when you grab one point in order to run to the other point, you can like move things around in the level and rearrange the level. Teardown. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, that one's also fun. I don't know if that hit. I was going to talk about. I don't think it hit 1.0. I know I think they finished the campaign. I should check that out. Maybe Teardown hit 1.0.
That's a really creative and interesting game that doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah, same. I love that it exists. I'm never going to play it.
Yeah, no, not for me.
That was Devolver Digital showed off Teardown at their showcase. That's what it was.
Every time I saw Dismantle, I kept thinking Teardown. So I've just completely ignored Dismantle, and that actually sounds kind of interesting. So I will check that out. Thank you, Pseudo.
Yeah, I have enjoyed it. I haven't finished because I got to the point where it's nearing the end of content, and I didn't want to hit the point where, so I waited for it to release. So I'm going to go back and finish that pretty soon, but it's good. I like that progression where there's constantly kind of new stuff, so it kind of still feels fresh, and you can start one-shotting the things you couldn't one-shot before, and there's an iframe roll, so that combat's always kind of fun if you can time that.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the boss
If
fights
they
and-
add a skill
and
check
stuff
to the
like-
combat, that definitely adds a level of interest for me, because that gives me something to practice and focus on and get good at. And
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, and it's got a skill system and builds that you unlock certain stuff for, so you can kind of tailor your needs to whatever you want, and it's yeah, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like the thing where it's not too easy where it's brain dead, but also like not too difficult where it takes too much focus. You can kind of just get a bit lost in it and walk around and see what's going on.
build systems. I miss build systems. I do. That's one of the things that the game that I chose for PC Game of the Year is actually missing. It could really, really, really use a build system. But it's still the best PC game I played this year. And I probably like it more than the other two I see from the other choices, so I think I made a decent choice for myself. Which is Final Fantasy XIV. Not the greatest MMO. Never gonna call it a great MMO, but a pretty good game. It's a pretty good game. I have a lot of fun on it. It feeds the MMO. It's like the what's it called?
Diet MMO.
No, that's not the word I'm looking for. The methadone MMO. It doesn't quite get you there, but at least it gets you over the addiction. It can just keep you going at least.
Enough to keep the
Keep the shakes down.
the urges of the cravings at bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was real tempted to pick New World, but they've just been doing
Yeah,
They've been
done it
making
to
some
themselves.
choices, man. They've been making some choices.
yeah, the game has been interesting for a while, but I've put a lot of hours into it, but it's mostly just because it's just what MMOs are. But I'm still playing it. But the main reason I've just been playing it is just, you know, community wise, like you find some people to play with, and that's kind of what gets you going. But solo wise, it's not a whole lot there. It's just kind of a grind. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I was tempted to, because I'm like, that's where all my hours for PC have been going. But I'd be hard to say it's the best PC game that.
Well, it
that
is
came out
favorite
this year.
PC game.
That's true. But even then, I'm like, that game
Can I
is
call that
frustrating,
my
right?
favorite?
Same with Battlefield 2042. I'm like, I really enjoy it, and I've gotten tier 1 on a lot of stuff, but it's like, is it really my favorite? Is that the one I'm like, man, I really enjoy the game? It's like, no, I played a lot, and you know, I have fun, but like, when I think of like the games I you know, actually enjoyed and played a lot, it's
It is favorite. It is
It's
not
up there.
most played.
yeah. But I went with, for favorite PC game, I went with Hell Let Loose, because that was been a whole lot of fun. I much preferred over Battlefield 2042. I played Battlefield a lot more because Battlefield's more casual.
Yeah, easier to
Hell Let
grab some
Loose.
friends and play.
Yeah, Hell Let Loose, you kind of need a squad for it. You don't have to have one, but you have to kind of be on VoIP because you need to communicate things, and it's challenging. It's not really difficult. It's more just challenging, and like your mileage will vary just depending on like what's going on. It's 100-player lobbies, so there's just a lot of shit going on at once, and there's a commander role. So if you have like a shit commander or no commander at all, like you're just not always gonna have the best time. But for what the game that is there, and when it is, you know, and it's like more ideal conditions, it is a whole lot of fun. And I end up making a few friends in the game that I still play with. And I run as medic, and like my favorite thing is like, because there's VoIP for it, so like when you get downed, you can kind of see the medics there near you, and it was just amazing for me whenever I run up to them. They're like, Pseudo, you're a god, because like they'll get shot out in the middle. I'm like, I'm gonna go save that guy, because like pop smoke grenades and just go save this asshole. They're just like super ecstatic and stoked. They're like, yeah, this is why I do this. Fuck shooting people. I want to help people, and it's fantastic. I'll save you your respawn time. Don't worry, but I got you. Or you get down, and after a while, like you can give accommodations at the end of the match too. So it's always nice to get that shit. But the design of the game, the feel, the grittiness, the sound design is just fantastic. The artillery is glorious and terrifying.
When Tarkov adds the ability to use your meds on others, and if they add a downed state, because I know they're planning on doing unconscious. That is a thing that they have a plan for.
They have that whole giant medic backpack. And it's just useless until there's an actual medic, the ability to heal other people. But yeah,
unless you're planning on getting shot a lot.
Yeah, but that's why you hang back. It's like when you run medic rolls. What game I've been playing recently that does that? There's a game like Tarkov that has the ability to heal other people, but like stuff like DayZ and stuff like that. Before, you'd usually have all your medical supplies. You'd spread them out, but you'd have most of them on one person, and then that person would kind of be in the middle of the convoy. You don't want them at the back, but you don't want them at the front, and definitely not the person who's kicking in and running into buildings.
You mean you don't use your medic to push lines?
In Hell Let Loose, the medic build for that has the most materials, you just only have a pistol. that's just what you have.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because I managed to clear a trench with it one time, and I'm like, oh my god, I peeked, and I'm like, I shouldn't have peeked. I'm like, hey, a bunch of my guys are dead here. I'm like, I should peek to make sure it's clear. I'm like, it's definitely not clear. And I'm like, I don't think they were expecting me either. And I somehow managed to just... The really satisfying thing about that game is when you get a headshot, it makes it helmet sound like ding. So like, when you get the headshot, you're like, I got him. No matter how far away you are.
The Tarkov headshot sound is also top notch.
There's a headshot sound?
Yeah. The thwack of a 7.62 by 51 bullet entering a skull. It makes a different noise. It goes thwack.
Yeah, you can hear. Sometimes it's just so chaotic. It's hard to notice it because you're just all this gunfire just erupts. And you're just like
But you have
and
to
then all of a sudden people are dead.
Close enough to hear it in Tarkov, right?
Oh yeah, you can hear it from like 30 meters though.
Okay, yeah.
But with Hell Let Loose, you shoot and you ding. You're like, hey, shooting. You just see bullets coming out of the bush. Like, I'm gonna shoot at that bush. Ding, hey. Got him with a pistol. But it's there hasn't been much like that, and it's a Battlefield experience I wanted. It's just one of the ones that it's hard because you kind of have to, you can't casually really drop into it, and you really do need to try and put effort in. Otherwise, like, you're kind of being a detriment to the team, or you start getting kind of steamrolled. Especially if you're playing like engineer or commander, it becomes like a job. You have to actually do it. People are depending on you.
I actually like that about games. But I also come from the world of tanking and healing in MMOs, where it's a job. But without the responsibility, it feels thin.
Yeah, like Squad does the same thing as well, but I think Squad's medical system's a bit more like there's some actual stuff to it. Whereas Hell Let Loose, it's just like the Battlefield, defib. But I want to give a quick shout out because my favorite thing is like for the US and German, they kind of have a similar, like you have like morphine or some injection thing. For Russians, you just pick them up. It's like just a get up, comrade. You just grab his hand. You just get up, get back in there. He gets blown up by artillery. Like you run over, get up, get back in there. And it's just hilarious. It's just fantastic. The picture for it is just the hand. Like, yeah, you're just gonna pick him up. It's like, wow, I absolutely love it.
Every time you hit a healing grenade just as someone is about to die in Destiny 2.
Is it on Game Pass?
No.
Because you've sold me on it. I want to play it now.
Yeah, I'm totally down to play it with you guys. It's on Steam only, I believe, but I'm down. I've been watching it for a while. It looks good. I saw Pseudo playing it after I had been looking at it, as it's interesting. Like, oh, he's actually playing. I got someone to play with. I actually watched his stream of it for a bit. It kind of, if we were a squad, it would kind of be the Tarkov experience you're looking for with us running around. We'd have a bunch of other people on our team and 100 people or 50 people against us and just trying to help them take spots as a group.
I wouldn't know if it'd be like a Tarkov experience, but it'd be like the
There's
co-op
no
shooter
looting
experience.
and stuff like that, but it's that hardcore, choices are going to matter.
Shooter.
And yeah.
It's
rewarding
it's
experiences in a small party against a large number. You're going to be in the shit a lot, but it's not like, I've lost everything because you got shot either. So there's that too.
Just respawn.
Honestly, I like that about Tarkov. I like the consequence.
MMOs used to be like that, and that's sort of what people miss about MMOs too.
Anybody played RuneScape and got baited into walking into the wilderness as a child of my generation? Learned that lesson the hard way. Hey, what's this skull mean? Ah, my stuff. Hell Let Loose. It's my like only real issue with it is that like I fucking hate iron sights in games.
Yeah.
But it's
Learn
not
middle,
too bad.
Right? Learn middle.
But it doesn't really work with that because
it's not middle.
It is metal, but like blind firing is not really going to get you too far, especially with like the MGs. But it's not too bad. It's incredibly satisfying to land the shots. But I think Rage would enjoy being the sniper because you get the scope, but you just sit in the bushes behind enemy lines, just picking people off, and just scouting out artillery for the artillery team and the commander. And
the sniper actually gets a spotter. So I could actually be with you with binoculars, finding people for you and telling you where they are, and then protecting you that way.
That you just sit with.
Sounds really fun.
They work as a team. They do work as a team.
Just bring smoke grenades for when they find you, because they'll send a tank at you. That's like, you gotta keep relocating and turn around and like, that's a tank. It's kind of funny. You get like supply trucks and like transport trucks, and that's kind of like at the beginning of the game, everyone's in transport trucks, and you're kind of just rushing to that middle point to set up your lines. And depending on the drivers, they don't realize that you can't just go over trenches. So it's so common to be like walking through and you just see trucks stuck in trenches. And you're like, well, I guess we're walking. And then everyone just starts flipping on VoIP, being like, man, what are you doing? Oh, damn it.
Hey, look, the trench did what it was designed to do.
Yeah, but it's crazy. It's when they like start pushing it, because like they'll call in an artillery strike and then do like a line, and then they push you like right after, and like, God, it's terrifying, especially when you're like defending a point, and since there's so many people, and there's a commander actually like telling. It's neat because the squad leader is a separate role who has a separate VoIP channel with the commanders or with the commander. So the commander is talking to all the individual squad leaders, telling them where and what to do. So everyone kind of gets roles. So if you have a very competent commander, it becomes a very kind of realistic war sense where you have, flanking squads, you have defending squads, you have, a simultaneous push at a certain time with people flanking from sides and people with, certain weapon loadouts and all that kind of crazy shit coordinated with artillery. When it flows together, it really does flow. It's a quite an amazing experience. That and it just handles really well because it's polished shooter and the audio is fucking fantastic.
I mean, we already know not to question your judgment in this field, so we've learned.
Yeah, when it goes on sale again, hopefully it goes on a big sale. I don't know when the next Steam sale will be, but yeah, I can try picking it up. Try at least 2 hours of it. Try a match or two, and if you don't like it, you can at least refund it. But it's up my alley. I know it's definitely not gonna be up everyone else's, but for me, I was stoked for it.
Just the fact that we can play together is enough for me to pick it up and keep it for the times when we actually get to play together.
It's one of those style of games that for me, like, it sounds like what I want out of a Battlefield game may be found in Hell Let Loose. It might be. So I want to check it out. I want, something that's a little bit more hardcore, something that's a little bit more attention requirement-y.
Yes.
So yeah, it sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Like one last tangent, like one of my favorite memories of it, like the battlefields are.
You're lying,
like, scanned.
Pseudo.
Yeah, I know. But the battlefields from it are like kind of like scanned and recreated from the actual battlefields that were fought. Which is kind of neat. Like map design wise, it doesn't always kind of work super well because, maps are designed for the mechanics of the game. But overall, I mean, their cities are openings and whatever. So there's some tweaks they've done. But like, since I usually play medic, but like my role for a long time is, so we're all in the trees, and the enemy had a bunch of squads across this open field also into trees, and we're basically just all dumping rounds at each other there, and I'm just prone, crawling around trying to like medic people who have been shot and been like, lit up and stuff like that, and grenades will fly over, artillery will blow up, and I'm just crawling around from like foxhole to foxhole going down. Like no game has really given me that kind of experience, and I'm not even really shooting at people. I'm literally just crawling around and picking people up, and it gave me that like realistic, like, holy shit, there's a war going on. I got to keep my head down. Or like we're in a foresty area, trees with the squads, and we're all behind trees, and we see them moving up, and we start taking shots at them, and the firefight erupts, and it's there's still emergent gameplay that can come out of this, even though most of it's kind of like open battlefield.
Excellent. Yeah, I look forward to it. I
Very
have had my eyes on it for a while.
And I guess that leaves my favorite PC game of the year, and this is an interesting choice for me.
It is.
This is a game that I think most people would not see coming. My choice here. But the combination of the aesthetic the art style, the nonsense that you can do, how wacky the game is, the meta progression, the just and the actually like really well thought out game mechanics that end up working quite well. Reminded me a lot of another game that we have played the just absolute shit out of on the channel, Slay the Spire. And I'm going to say that my favorite PC game this year is actually Inscription. I think it's just a really neat game. It's just really cool.
I love the style of it, and I love what they've done with like all the mechanics. It's one of those things where like if you try and blend too many mechanics, it can go wrong, but they've put quite a bit of thought into how they were going to handle this.
So maybe I should actually take a look at it, is what you're saying?
I think you would like it.
I like it a lot.
I looked at it and I was like, it looks like they're trying to do too much.
Yeah, it looks like that. That was my first impression. Like, oh, it looks like it's doing a lot, but they do it quite well.
And it does have one thing that Slay the Spire didn't, which is meta progression. There is a meta story along with the story that you play through on each individual run. And that meta progression for me, like, really just bumped up the level of enjoyment that I had both viewing and thinking about the game. And it gives you that extra drive. Like the times that I come and play Slay the Spire now, because I've unlocked most things in the game, is just like, you know what, I enjoy these mechanics. Let's go see what the daily run is today. And I don't really like that. Okay, I'm going to close the game. I'm going to go do something else. But the meta progression that Inscription has is one of the things that I think would keep me coming back over and over to the game.
That's one thing I really need out of roguelikes nowadays is meta progression or some other external progression to a run, because otherwise I get heavily discouraged when a run goes bad because I feel like I just like wasted time. And even with like Gunfire, you get currency and stuff like that you can use for like unlocks. You get experience and you get currency, or I think maybe it's just experience I'm thinking of. But you get something out of it, you know. For clearing a thing, the farther you get, of course, you get more and more unlocks or more currency. But even if like your run goes bad and you lose in like the first level or so, you at least get something. So it wasn't just like, you know, a complete loss. And also just kind of gives me the drive to go right back in there, you know, have something to strive for rather than just trying to hit the end of the loop. And then the nice thing about that is when you do hit the end of the loop, you have a reason to keep playing and keep going through it again and again.
Yep, and it's something that they really nailed with Inscription.
Love the art style. Done with the cards.
The art style is actually honestly a little bit of a turnoff for me initially, but I got past it. It's a good game.
The Inscription art style? We still on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't miss that much. Good.
I just like dark gritty shit and low poly.
Yeah, I like low poly. I like retro style for sure.
Yeah, for me, it's like low poly doesn't bother me. It's low internal render resolution. Like that's what it ends up looking like.
Yeah, I like it when you have low poly but like high end shaders.
Yeah,
that's an aesthetic I've really liked, and we've seen a lot of games picking that up nowadays, and something I want to try playing around with because it looks very pretty.
Yeah.
Pulled off right.
All right, I
so for favorite,
have to organize a bit of dinner here, but everything is ready for the next one.
Well, you continue organizing, and I can fill some dead space. I can talk. This is a thing I can do. My favorite, repeatedly for extended periods. My favorite PlayStation game this year is one that, like Deus, really struck me initially because of the visual style. And then upon seeing more and more of the game, I just fell more and more in love with what they were doing from a technology implementation perspective, from a gameplay perspective. I think they hit a lot of things right. They took advantage of some specialized hardware. They managed to include a visual style that, much like Kena, is, you know, rivaling a Pixar film in visual fidelity, is something that, you know, it wasn't possible until these newer generations of technology came around. And my choice is Ratchet and Clank, the new Ratchet and Clank, for my favorite PlayStation game. The other contenders here are ones, honestly, that I've picked for other categories, like Kena. Kena easily could have been my favorite PlayStation game, but I did feel that Ratchet and Clank needed some recognition from me as well, as it really is a technical marvel. It's an absolutely wonderful game. Like I said, leverages a bunch of new technology, does things that were considered basically impossible a couple of years ago with the technology that we had then. And it manages to wrap all of that technical achievement, which would normally be just something like a tech demo, into something that is legitimately a good game. It has good writing. The mechanics are solid. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the way that the guns handle, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. It's a different style of game.
It's not trying to be a shooter at all.
No, absolutely not. But the way that the storyline comes together is very satisfying. The way that the characters are written is very sort of on beat for the sort of feel that they're going for. They haven't done anything too far out of left field. The story that it tells is very heartwarming. Again, my comments on Kena, feels like a Pixar film, makes you feel good when you're playing it. And the overall package, I think, was probably my favorite of everything that's come out of the PS5.
It's a solid pick. Nobody can fault you for that one, for sure.
It was really close to being mine. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's one of those games where it started getting actual use of the adaptive triggers, and it's not really feeling gimmicky. Like, all the weapons have some sort of use of the adaptive trigger. You know, you have like the full half, and then it gets harder to pull down for the second half, or they have some sort of feedback for it. It's really neat. They've done a really good job, not just trying to, we have to use this new tech because it's here. We're more so actually approaching it as, hey, we have this new tool available. Let's, you know, see what we can do with it. Let's, you know, try and push it to its limit. And you get like skating shoes or hover shoes, and you use the trigger to pump them to get to your speed, and the feedback from it is just super satisfying to do, to actually like time it with your legs and your skating. And it's just all the little things that game have, alone to the style and the field of mechanics. It's very, very solid. Enjoyed it immensely. I think I almost got every armor unlock. There's only a few that I'm missing, but there's it's not a super long game, but it's for what's there.
I think you copied a new line character. There you go. Yeah, it's not a complex game, like Pseudo said. It's not something that, you know, needs a whole lot of thought around it.
No,
but it's fun. It is a fun video game.
Turns out games are supposed to be fun. Who knew? I certainly didn't.
Ratchet and Clank devs.
Apparently. And now on to something different. I'm back. My dinner's on the way. Everything's taken care of. And now I can tell you about my favorite game on the PS. Not PS4, just PS. We were just saying PlayStation. We're lumping them in together. They're all one thing now for the category. But it is very easily Returnal. It's a wonderful game. It controls well. It plays well, has an interesting story, it has very rewarding mechanics. Of all the games that came out this year, I had by far the most fun with that, even though I only got to play it twice because always busy doing things. Definitely my favorite PlayStation game. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to copy you on that one. It was one that really kind of stood out as like, this is a PS5 game. It was the first one I played since getting the PS5. I was like, yeah, this is what we have to look forward to: the style, the aesthetics, the graphics, and then the controller. It was my first experience into the adaptive triggers.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
Which was super cool.
Oh man,
the feedback you have to like pull halfway and then do a light shot or do a full shot if you pull all the way, and even just the adaptive feedback too when you get hit and feeling the vibration of like which side you're getting hit on and all that kind of all the new neat stuff that was cool. And it didn't feel gimmicky. It felt like it was properly actually implemented into the game.
My first thought of it when I like heard, okay, half pull for light and full pull for heavy. I'm like, this is gonna. That sounds like, I have to. What if I pull it too far? And this sounds like it's not good. I was worried. I was a little worried. And then when I first used it, I was like, oh wow, this is like it. Actually,
oh wow, they nailed it.
It actually makes the half pulls feel even crisper because of how tight that barrier is that you're hitting. So you're like, it makes it easier to control. It makes it better. not worse. It actually improves on the original while giving you the two modes. It's that good.
And I mean, much like I said about Ratchet and Clank as well, it easily could have been just like a tech demo show-offy sort of thing to have the adaptive triggers and the new haptic feedback. But instead of it just being a tech demo, they worked it into the game incredibly well. And it feels like it belongs, like it's part of the video game rather than just being something that like, oh yeah, it's new technology, we got to throw it in the game because we're on a new platform. No, it's well integrated.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a tech demo, like you've said. It just feels like it was the right way to make the control for the game. Like, hey, we can improve it because we've got this now. Let's do that. Okay. And that was sort of the methodology behind it to get to where they are. Because it's just better. It is. Everything is better. More cop-out answers. Damn it.
Hey, Xbox is hard, all right? All the Xbox games come out on PC.
Well, we didn't choose a Xbox exclusive game. Just on Xbox.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be exclusive. Just on it. Yeah.
I don't know if there's any even exclusives anymore.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Because everything on Xbox is on PC, isn't it?
At least the official first-party Microsoft stuff. There might be some third-party, second-party, third-party devs that just make just for Xbox, but I think with Game Pass, they want as much on both as they can. There's going to be some. I think there's going to probably be some, but nothing that I can at least think off the top of my head that it's a...
Nothing that we'd want to put on a list.
But I really appreciate what they're doing with the whole Xbox and PC thing.
Me too. I don't want to have to buy an Xbox to play Xbox games. Let me buy my PlayStation and play everything else on my PC because I already bought Windows. Yeah. Seems fair to me. I already bought a Microsoft thing. Put your games on that too. Yeah.
Both using DirectX already, so...
I see this as a direct response to them being scared of Linux.
Yeah. Valve has made Linux gaming closer to a reality than I think anybody saw coming.
Yep.
And the response from Microsoft is essentially Game Pass, because as it turns out, the Microsoft store doesn't run terribly well or work terribly well.
And most people don't really use it
on Linux. You can. There are Lutris scripts. You can
most
run
people
it
don't
through
even
the
use
Proton
it
compatibility layer.
Much.
But it turns out Game Pass is actually just really fucking good value.
It is. I have Game Pass because it is the way to go.
It doesn't run terribly well on Windows either. True. But I think it does, respond well. And it gets you access to a whole library of really good games. I think it's good value if you've got, $15 Canadian a month kicking around. Honestly, I can recommend it for what you get. But the game that I chose was actually one that did not originally release on the Xbox consoles, and this year was ported over to them. You were allowed to play it on the Xbox consoles, and that game is Hades. Hades is a wonderful, wonderful game. You've seen a bunch of it on the channel here, and I love it. And it's on Xbox now.
Love the style of that game. Beautiful art style.
Yeah, I'm not a huge roguelike fan, but a roguelite fan, but Hades I love. Played the shit out of it, completely finished it, and still go back and plug it in once in a while. Like, yeah, let's do a couple more runs because it's just fun to play. It's a really fun game. It's a great, I mean, everything. It's beautiful. It controls well. It has a great story. It's very responsive. It's very creative in the builds. But yeah, it's just it's fun to play. That's the core of it. It's got a great core loop, and you can just play it and play it and play it. But I didn't choose that for my Xbox game for the year because it didn't come out this year.
It was ported to Xbox this year.
Welcome, Spin. So I went with a game that was actually, yeah, I know, we cheated there too. It was a tough year. But I chose a game that actually came out on Xbox this year. I haven't actually played it. I plan to play it with Rage and Pseudo when they finish releasing it. Maybe it shouldn't even be eligible because they haven't finished releasing it yet. But the date for release still says 2021. So it's Halo Infinite. I mean, come on. If you're an Xbox gamer and you're not getting the new Halo, what are you doing?
Yeah,
play it on PC instead. But still use a controller because the auto aim is so strong that it gives you a significant competitive advantage.
No, the Xbox plays it just fine if you're planning to use a controller. They're fine.
More eye candy on PC?
Yeah,
most people that have... No, Control did not come out this year, Spent. That's why I was saying Rage copped out again.
It was a bad year, okay?
We're just rolling into the same year. It still hasn't ended.
Accurate, Dragon. Accurate. But I like Hades, so I let it slide.
You liked Control too.
I loved Control. That's why I let it slide.
Anyway, we should probably let Pseudo actually say his pick rather than talking over him.
Yeah, I'm going with Halo Infinite as well. It's hard not to pick a Halo game for the Xbox, which it used to be exclusives, and this was the first time that an Xbox launched without having a Halo with it. With any time, like it's been like a year or something before it actually came out, and then even then they had dropped the multiplayer first and then released the campaign later. And I haven't gotten a chance to go through the campaign, but the multiplayer it's been good. They started kind of finding back to their roots a bit and not just, trying to copy what COD was doing and adding a bunch of sprinting and loadouts and all that other kind of shit. Kind of going back to why people were playing Halo games in the first place, which not everyone enjoys because there's, of course, going to be a lot of grenade spam and a lot of just like you hold shoot and shield goes down and then you go and punch them. But there was definitely a huge following for that style of shooter and that style of game where it's not just super quick time to death. You have a bit of survival rate, or you have a bit of,
Halo 1 was pretty quick time to death if you were shooting them in the head with a pistol or you had a sniper rifle.
Yeah, so they'll always be there, but there's still a whole lot of, like, you're just kind of shooting at them and trying to get within range, or there's still the skill shots that are there too, or a lot of it's also just been grenades. You just yeet grenades everywhere and try and blow up everybody and the vehicles as well.
I liked Halo 1 because it kind of had that option for how you play. You could choose the sniper rifle and play it like an arena shooter where you just bounce into the air and go poof, 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 just annihilate people. You could do the hallway combat with the pistols, or some other guns were okay, I think. I only remember using pistols and sniper.
Yeah, the assault rifle's always been rough because it just takes so long.
Oh, it's a piece of crap.
Elites stand still, but players don't. But if you can get used to it, you can kind of catch up on someone and get them to their shields down, and then you can
give
block
the
them with
old 1-2.
The shotguns were always good. The Needler is hit or miss depending on what Halo you're playing. Sometimes it's just broken and blows you up, and sometimes it just tickles you for a little while.
Yeah.
Um,
Nintendo had a decent year. I didn't pay a ton of attention to Nintendo, honestly. But we're getting there. Because Switch is next.
yeah.
Then there's actually more than one game that we picked.
Yeah, there's 2.
That's more than one.
Well, they all had at least 2. We didn't line up on any of them this year. Every other year we had at least one category where we all chose the same game. We don't choose our answers together, by the way. We come up with our lists and then get together. This just happens. It's weird. It's strange. Who's actually going first here?
I'll go first. I play quite a bit of Switch games still, and I enjoy my Switch, and it's one of the last kind of consoles that has a lot of local multiplayer games. Even though those have been kind of hard to do in the last couple of years, it's still something that I can do with close with some family and some close friends within my bubble. But they've had quite a good year, because I mean, there's been quite a few games that have come out. Some of them more interesting than others. I'm stoked to see Pokemon Snap get remade and released, which was cool. But the one I went with, the one I've at least enjoyed the most, the one I've been most stoked on, was Mario Party Superstars, because it's been a while since we actually had a pretty good Mario Party, and they finally figured out that they just did it right at the start. But they took all the best maps and all the best mini games from the first 3 and kind of just remastered them and put them into Mario Party Superstars. And I've been enjoying it a lot. It's been great. It's like, wow, because we ran an emulator on my Wii U so we could play those previous ones before. We went through a lot of effort to do that. But now actually having an actual release title for that has been fantastic. And they brought back Chance. They brought back all that crazy stuff. There's no new kind of gimmicks that they've tried. Like the latest ones, they've had like the Bowser mode and their stuff. And I appreciate them trying new things, but nothing's really kind of hit well. Or the I think my least favorite one was where you had allies. You can get like people that would help you roll, but then they kind of just end up screwing you up because they just start adding stuff to your roll that you didn't want. You get the roll you need, and they're like, I'm going to add to it. And you're like, no, stop. Or like stuff like that. It's just straight Mario Party, what people have wanted, and those mini games that we all loved before. And they added online, which is terrible because Nintendo can't write netcode to save their life. And all Switches just have Wi-Fi by default, so even if you have an Ethernet adapter, your opponents do, and everything's like TCP state locked, so if someone lags, the game just pauses. Which means that if you're playing the like jump rope mini game or any of the ones that require you to jump at a certain time, the game just pauses right before you're supposed to jump and stutters, and it's just impossible. There's a neat mode, there's a gauntlet mode where you just play mini games against other people, and you're trying to see how far that you can win in a row. And you can see other people's current streaks, and whoever wins is going to continue. I don't think I made it past like 1 or 2. Like it's rough, but it was still entertaining. It was fun to like beat someone in a 1v1 duel online, but like then you get someone who's like lag switching or just like laggy as hell, and you're like, oh dear God, this is like, if anyone's played Smash Bros online, they know, or any other fighting game online, they know what I'm talking about, where the game just stops for a couple seconds to wait for the packet to arrive, and you're just like, oh no,
I was gonna do so well.
Did nobody tell Nintendo that Blizzard solved this a long time ago?
No. Nobody did.
I sat upon hearing about Nintendo thinking of going after the netcode tool for Smash Bros. Melee during the pandemic.
I still think that one's running. There's is it Slippy? I can't remember whatever it's called. Yeah, it's Slippy. I have a friend that plays and streams that. It's super cool. I hope they don't go after it. It's.
I'm with you. Because adding proper netcode to those games makes them playable, multiplayer.
Yeah, they're like, I don't even play. I don't know how, like, I have friends that play Smash Online and got into like, I can't remember what the high end Elite Smash. I think it's just called Elite Smash. And it's like, yeah, I try and play and like it goes okay, but you get those some matches that you just sit there for like literally 10 seconds just looking at like the spinning circle, being like, oh my god, what happened? And then you're not expecting it to come back, and it comes back, and the person just like trashes you. You're like, oh, okay. Or like you're going for a block and it pauses, so you're like, okay, what's going on? You don't realize you let go of a block, and it resumes, and you let go of your block, so you get smacked. You're like, it's just it can get so annoying sometimes. It's just the Wii U, the same thing. All their consoles don't have Ethernet, so at the very least, like there's always going to be some delay and a bunch of packets not arriving, and it's such a shit show on top of just their code itself.
It is. It is. Now you may provide Love Rage.
Love incoming. My choice for this year was very simple for me. It blew everything else out of the water. There was no contest. Metroid Dread. Holy shit, that game is incredible. It's calling back to all of the old great Metroid games like Super Metroid. We got another installment in the mainline Metroid series, which is amazing. We managed to get some good new mechanics. I won't say great. They were good. We saw some new... Hey, good to see you, Raven. We saw some new enemy types. We saw some new areas to explore. We saw some of our fan favorites come back. Some new mechanics were added to area traversal. They changed up how some old stuff worked, which, you know, is always dangerous waters, especially with a franchise that is as esteemed as Metroid. But I think they did it well. They handled the changes well. It is, in my opinion, probably the best Metroid since Super Metroid.
It's
a good game.
I do plan to play it.
It is a good game.
I do plan to play it. It is one I want to get around to. I liked Metroid a lot. Hey, Raven. Happy New Year. However, my choice to continue with the similarity trends... I too went with Mario Party Superstars because I played the hell out of the first 3 Mario Parties. And the fact that we can play multiplayer Mario Party, even though it's going to be terrible when we do it, is fantastic. It is amazing, and speedrunning it feels great. I'm glad. I'm not a speedrunning fan, though. That's not me. But I do like a good playthrough.
You'll like Dread.
And I already have a Switch, so I don't have a lot of excuse. All right. Well, we went a little over, but we also started a little late. So I think we're okay. That's a pretty good list of choosings on the side, I think.
Yeah. There's some good games in there, even in a year that was pretty light on video games.
It was. It was definitely the hardest choices we've had since we started doing this show.
Yeah.
I was looking at what I had to choose, and I was like, ooh, that's... And then as I'm looking at most of them, I'm realizing most of these aren't even actually eligible for what... Ooh, yeah. Hopefully a lot of good stuff comes out next year. I really hope Riverborn hits 1.0. I really want to play that.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Go check out Riverborn. That would be pretty sweet. Riverborn is a little base builder with really super accurate water physics where you play as a bunch of beavers.
I was going to say, if you didn't call it out, I would have also called out, and also you're a beaver.
That's why the super accurate water physics comes in, because it's all about making passageways and dams and running the water through and then using water wheels to power manufacturing and stuff like that. It's really cool.
It's super sweet. I can't wait for that game to come out. It's just the most adorable thing.
Big agree. So, I feel fine. My throat doesn't hurt at all after this 2 hours of pretty constant talking, and I took a dab while doing it. It is Timberborn. That's what I called it, isn't it?
I don't remember.
All
I remember being like, that's the beaver game.
Yeah. We love that game. But anyway, it seems like I'm back. So I guess Monday we can expect some Doom Eternal. Riverborn.
Yeah.
Oh. Is it? Which one is it? It's probably Timberborn.
Yeah, I don't think Riverborn is a game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Timberborn. Thank you. Thank you. My brain does dumb things with names. It's not good at them. But Timberborn looks amazing. Amazing. Satisfactory, I hope, comes out as well. Because I want to make a factory with Rage and Pseudo.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Beat Doom in 20 seconds, please. Done. Next game. Okay. I'm going to probably watch some hockey tonight, but I hope maybe we can play some games later. It'll be late night, but we can stream it anyway. Do a
Might be a
little gaming.
little bit of late night game streaming.
Sounds like fun. So, it's been so nice to see you all again. Look, I'm alive.
Wow.
Now we're going to be filling your whole day with Rage and Deus streams. So you better be ready for it. We're coming at you. There's no more escape. So until later, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
And may all your shots be headshots.